If you really think about it, if you look at human evolutions, there is one definition of intelligence, right? Some of us are smarter, some of us are less smart, but it's one human intelligence. We will have a lot of different AGIs for different companies with different capabilities, yes, but super intelligence is going to be only one, and that will be across a whole new species that is going to evolve out of that, and that species is by default going to be superior on us.
Yeah, and if you think about it, when was someone, let's say a king, has actually tried and served the needs of the population? Especially because what we're creating right now essentially is a being. Welcome to the New World Podcast, where we delve into the ever changing and accelerating pace of global change and its impact on our lives. I'm your host, Paul Flores, broadcasting live from the New World Studio. Today, we're diving into the world of AI and automation. As an enthusiast and expert in lead generation, I will guide you through understanding and leveraging these technologies for your business and for your personal use. And don't forget, AI and automation might be unstoppable forces, but that doesn't mean you are powerless. Tune in to learn how to make them work for you and not the other way around. But first, let's meet our guest. Welcome to the New World Podcast, where we navigate the changing world around us. I'm your host, Paul Flores, specializing in lead generation and AI automation, here to help you understand how our world is changing and what it means for you. Today, we are privileged to host an exceptional guest who is a futurologist, whose expertise transcends the literal boundaries of time itself. With a unique blend of technological acumen, strategic foresight, and creative brilliance, he has consistently offered visionary insights that have shaped and discord of innovation and disruption. As a renowned futurologist, keynote speaker, and strategic advisor, he stands at the vanguard of understanding and anticipating transformative changes in our rapidly evolving world. Having written two books, The Prophet and The Intellectual Rage, which we will be talking about later, he has also been a TEDx speaker not once but twice. Please welcome Aric.
Hey, John. Pleasure being here.
Guys, Aric here is a futurologist. That's very intriguing. Before we continue, do you mind letting us know what it means to be a futurologist?
It's when you're working with big corporation, it's the first thing it means of being very lonely. That's the first thing. Um, I mean, it's I mean, futurologist is not. It's not really a profession. I cannot fold it into a profession the same way I cannot fold like when people say I'm studying to becoming a entrepreneur. I mean, it's a passion. It's something. It's a drive within, and in my case, it's a drive to really understand our place in potential futures. And I often says that my day-to-day job is to help companies understand potential futures that could happen and then build a trajectory for a future that should happen from the company point of view. It's a 360-degree um, task. It's and you will speak to a lot of futurologists and they focus on technology. I believe that to really understand the future, you need to focus on society, on technology, on policy, on geopolitics, on history, geography. It's a combination of fields that merge together, fuse together, that enable you to create this picture of the future.
That's amazing, especially because if you focus on technology without touching on the point of society, it doesn't really matter because, it's still us that are going to be using it.
Yeah, I would like to hope that it's still going to be a version of us that is going to use technology in the future. I think one of my biggest fear today is that if you look at the three fundamental, you know, If I create a pie and I will create, the three sides of the pie would be policy, technology, and society, or it will be policy, society, technology, society will be in the middle. And in an ideal world, each of these parts will have an equal say of how do we perceive the future. Uh, but you do have a huge gap of knowledge within the policy making layer that shrinks, dramatically shrinks the influence. I mean, I live in Europe, and people will come and say, but look what European Union is doing, guys. Look what they're doing with GDPR. They are protecting privacy. They are protecting consumers. Well, yes. And with that, they're also completely eliminating the startup ecosystem that exists in the European Union. And it's the lack of knowledge. And then it's the technology world that get this big, massive piece of the pie of dictating how our future is going to look like. And it's very easy to be mesmerized or blinded by, I call it the bling bling reality of especially now, of everything. I want ChatGPT. Why? Because McKinsey said that we need to do it. Well, that's not really an answer, but we are really blinded by, a set of superficial, set of tools that say, oh, this is going to replace our jobs. And no one is asking, wait, should we actually develop tools that can replace our jobs, or we should take a step back and understand the more meaningful philosophical implication of what we do. I mean, the best example is the Microsoft Copilot latest. I mean, if you go back and watch the bill from Microsoft bill from 2 days ago, 3 days ago, I mean, really, everyone is glorifying the experience. But if you step back enough, you see that they have certain functions over there that if there is no policy behind it, I mean, will make Microsoft the most powerful corporation on the planet. Do we want to be governed by Microsoft or not? And I don't see these questions being asked at the moment.
Do you think the reason that these questions aren't being asked or the policies aren't getting updated is the lack of knowledge, especially of the people who control these policies, because they're not as familiar in the field?
First, there is a huge gap in knowledge. I mean, when you are, I remembered, I was sitting with my wife, and I stumbled. It was, I think, 2 years ago or even 3 years ago, sitting in the living room in the evening watching CNN, watching Zuckerberg testifying in front of a congressional hearing committee, and a guy in a suit and a tie that was voted by thousands of people to this position of, I don't remember if he was senator or a congressman. He asked Zuckerberg, so when I use WhatsApp to send an email, and I literally, I had a tea in my mouth that I spat it out. I started to laugh. I didn't know where to put myself. And when you hear politicians talking about technology, I mean, they are absolutely clueless, and they never find a way to surround themselves with people that can help them to ask the relevant questions. So I mean, obviously, if I'm Satya Nadella, obviously I will use the stupidity of people to make more money. I mean, it's straightforward. So yeah, it's education, it's knowledge, and we have a huge problem within the policy making layer right now. On top of that, if you really think about it, most of the governance models that we have right now, that we use to govern society, are outdated. They're literally outdated. I mean, people say democracy is the best thing on the planet, but is it really the best thing on the planet? I know I don't want to go to dictatorship, but I mean, we tried so many forms of governance that led us to a chaotic reality. So maybe we should try to progress a little bit beyond and not being relying on a so outdated governance models.
That's an absolutely amazing take. And yeah, on that take, a few months ago, a news network on our country, they have this, basically some guy used DALI, which is I'm sure familiar with, to create photos of billionaires living in the slums. And this was 5 months after DALI was created, and they were amazed. And in my mind, I was saying, how can these people not know that this exists for a very long time now? Because right now, 5 months is basically forever.
I mean, this is a very good comment. How certain people, you know, are completely ignorant to what is going on in the technology world, and specifically when you're looking into artificial intelligence. I mean, you see people, you say, "Oh, have you seen OpenAI? Have you seen AI? What AI can do today? Have you seen Copilot? Have you seen Google Gemini?" The AI is the concept of artificial intelligence, the philosophical concept, dated all the way back to the Greek and Talos, right? We always, we the Greek created like this bronze giant. It's the, from my point of view, it's the first manifestation of, artificial intelligence. But we forget that artificial intelligence is not really a technology, but a philosophical abstract that holds a lot of different technologies under it. Computer vision, computer hearing, and certain algorithms that we consider as, generative AI, generative AI. But at its core, it is a philosophical abstract, and it's not new. The fact is that the majority of algorithms that we are using today are, predating 1983. And we can talk about why 1983 specifically, but it's for the first time today that we have enough computation power to actually bring these algorithms and experience to the hands of users. But it's not something new. So we had so many years to actually try to understand what are the implications. But no, we played the three monkeys. I don't see, I don't hear, I don't speak.
Yeah, it's such a hard concept to grasp on, especially because, AI just became mainstream when ChatGPT was, launched. I mean, a million users in 5 days. That's when AI became a household name. Before that, it's not really, it's like a myth. It's something you don't talk about because it basically doesn't exist.
I mean, let's take to one of the concepts. Let's look at one of the concepts under AI, which is the entire narrative of automations, because automation is what by far is the element that most threatening blue collar works and professions today. But automation is not really new. We we started the minute we learned how to ride on horses. That was the first automations that we introduced. But we had, manual cars, we shifted to automatic cars, to automations. We had, think about the introduction of a dishwashing machine. That is a certain type of automation. Laundry machine is another type of automation. So the concept is not really new. What's happening right now is that most of the past automations actually automated our muscles. So even machines in factories today, they automated our muscles. And when people are talking about, look at robots, they are going to replace blue collar workers. Yes, but of course, it's a natural, it's a natural progression. It's a really natural evolutions that, and it's not new. It's happened for the entire agricultural industrial revolutions. But we do have algorithms today that can actually automate certain type of our brain function. And I'm not sure that we are able to understand what that really means. Think about the concept of autonomous driving car, because we talked about horses. From the minute we used another element beside our legs and feet to move through reality, we were always in control over the movement. Even if you step into a taxi or you step into an airplane, there is a cognitive bond. There is a logical bond that that there is a human behind the steering wheel, behind in the cockpit. I mean, I do this exercise a lot. I ask people, how many of you flew to this event? And everyone is like raising their hands. Okay, so please sit down if you will step into that airplane if you knew that there is no one in the cockpit, no one is flying the plane. And, people cannot grasp this idea. But for the first time, think about autonomous driving car, that there isn't we don't even have the ability to create a logical or emotional bond to the movement because it's an algorithm that you don't see. What is that going to do to our brain when you deploy it massively? And I experience autonomous driving cars, and other people that I talk to experience autonomous driving cars, and it's great. But what are we talking about? Like 0.1% of the world population that experience that? Now let's scale it to 50% of the world population. Suddenly, the ability that you have, or the need that we have to control the movement, doesn't exist anymore. What will that do to our brain? Will it drive us insane? Will it free our mind to actually look for life on other planets? We don't focus on these questions at the moment.
Yeah, it's scary, and the fact is that we're leaving the thought process to a very few people whose main goal is to just make money out of everybody.
I mean, and this is another question. Number one, let's start with a simple concept. The cloud is just someone else's computer, right? So instead of saving your pictures in a document on your computer, you're saving it on the cloud. Let's be honest, it's just someone else's computer that can look at it at any moment and says, aha, this picture, I can make a little bit of money from this image. So that's the first thing. Now, when you scale this one and you go all the way to algorithms that support or even take decisions on your behalf, these algorithms are using large data models to create an average model that they try to fit you into that. And there are few problems into that. All large, data models that exist out there, they are simply a carefully curated library that you are not allowed to look inside. You don't have the key. You cannot contribute. It's someone else's library. And the only thing is you can ask questions to that library, and the library will give you an answer based on the books that are curated on that specific library. And as such, if you having conversations with Chat GPT, if you are talking to Gemini, if Grok or any other of the models that exist out there, you will get a slightly different answers based on what kind of data was curated. But people need to understand that it's not their data, it's data that other people curated in order to fit you into that specific box. And that's the first thing. The second problem is that it's still driven by content, not by context and intention. And we are as humans, while we are able to process so much content from around us, it's unbelievable how much our brain can actually process at every given moment. We are still driven by small pieces of data that are contextual and intentional, and none of the models is capable of catering for that at that specific moment of time. So the danger that exists right now of more and more people engaging with these type of models, more and more corporation engaging with models, that the models are going to create, different type of sets of average clusters of societies out there. None of them is personal, none of them is driven by intentions, none of them is driven by context. And so we will become very, very, very monotonic society.
Yeah, especially with all of the blogs that are posted nowadays, most of them are basically just from Chat GPT. So it's just feeding off its own information, especially in the future. Most of the content will be.
And you're creating an infinite loop of the same data. Now, look, I'm dyslexic and I'm dysgraphic, and in the past, for me to be able to spit an article can take anything between 3 days to 3 weeks, depend on the size, the depth, the language I chose to write the article. I needed to proofread the article myself. I literally needed to develop scripts that can help me to do these things. Then grammar tools were introduced. And today I can actually write an article in 3 hours. But I write the article and I ask the chat to please proofread it, help me. I'm a more fan of the British English than the American English. But I'm not afraid right now. I can write it with the mistakes, with the grammars. The AI helps me to fix it. The challenge I have is that in most cases, the algorithms are trying to correct my opinion that I infused into the article if it's not aligned with the opinion of the people that programmed the article. So I find myself in new argument with algorithms that are trying to twist what I wrote, because I'm a very not politically correct person, and I want to be not politically correct, but no, it's trying to put me back into a box that the people that program the algorithm think I should be in that box. And that is something I have a problem with.
Yeah, it's crazy when I try to write some of the scripts that I have today, I'm telling it to write it this way, write it this way. No, don't do that phrase, add this phrase. And it's not following me. And yeah, as you said, you're in constant argument with this algorithm that should, on most occasions, should be just following your orders.
Yes, and that begs the question, right? If you subscribe to OpenAI Pro, for example, so you pay money for the service and you give it a set of instructions, but the instructions are not aligned with it's mainly with the political opinions of the people behind it, and it's giving you correction based on not your opinion. Why do you pay money for in the end of the day? I understand that if you're using the free models, great, but if you are subscribers, if you are paying, even if it's 20 euro per month, you're expecting a certain service and you don't get, you're getting corrections all the time. And I think that's something that policy should actually, well, they should have interacted with that around like 15 years ago. Not, but they're still blind at this moment.
Yeah, and in most cases, especially, it's not that big of a deal right now. But what if they bring the same concept into autonomous driving? You tell it to go here and it goes somewhere else because, we actually have less traffic here, let's go here. And it's not following your orders.
Yeah. Or, if you're looking into the new Microsoft Copilot, the recall function, which, I mean, uh, right now Microsoft saying it will be only on the computer, it's going to be encrypted, but we reserve the right to move it to the cloud and decrypt it at any given moment. I mean, imagine that a set of algorithms are constantly seeing what you see on the screen. I mean, you cannot control it. It's built into the operating system. You cannot go into private mode. It's constantly there. And suddenly a social credit is being introduced and starts to categorize people accordingly. If I do research, I do a lot of geopolitical research, and you will find me reading extremely left-wing newsletter, extremely right-wing newsletters. And if I will take Copilot with the recall functions and, it will look into my screen when I'm reading right now a right-wing article, it will automatically going to label me as a right-wing person. Will that information be given or sold by Microsoft to the federal authorities in the US? And next time I want to fly to the US, they are not going to approve my visa because I'm going to be marked? Because there is no context, right? There is zero context. They just see the general and try, let's put the person in that cluster. And that's the really danger that exists right now.
That's very interesting. And, I haven't actually seen the recall function, but I think I saw it a few months ago. I don't know if that's correct, but it is essentially what you see on the screen. Are they gonna be embedding it on their OS essentially?
I mean, all of the new hardware that is being introduced today is designed to be able to run some kind of an algorithmic intelligence on device. And let it be. I mean, let's look at. So you have Amazon, you have Google, you have Meta, you have Microsoft, you have Apple, but then we have Netflix, we have Disney, we have HBO. I mean, there is not a single company that you interact with on daily basis that are not using some kind of an algorithmic intelligence to find new ways to constantly quantify you, so they can sell you. Right? That's the end goal. And I have no problem of a company quantifying me, selling my data as long as I get value from that, as long as it's a relationship that I have something to say about. I do have a lot of problem when that data is being sold, when it's behind my back and that data is being put out of context and, will wreak havoc in society. And I mean, the distance from where we are today to a reality when things are driven by, a social score system is not so far. And it's really not so far. And the sad part is that, politicians are being bought into that through ignorance rather than through knowledge. So that's the challenge right now.
And do you think that would have a very great direct correlation with the central banking digital currency that they're planning?
I mean, I see more and more call to that for let's create a universal basic income on parallel to how AI is growing at the moment. And so there are three lines that are um, it's three parallel lines, and I'm trying to figure out where they're going to actually start to cross each other. So you do have the AI track that is going, what we talked about until now. Then we do have a financial system track that is going with a central digital currency. There are few experiments that are happening there, and you have the track of the societal track of a universal basic income. So if algorithms are going to take my job, we have to make sure that people have money. But what do we pay people just to sit at home? We're just going to create a lazy society. I'm a very, very much against a universal basic income. And I think the monetary systems, at least in the West that exist right now, is very much outdated and peaked its, that's it. It peaked its potential. And we also see a new monetary system being created slowly by the BRICS. It's not something we can find. So for a short duration of time, and that can be 75 years, we will end up with two or three monetary systems that act in parallel until one will emerge as the dominant one. And through all of these movements, if you notice, the last thing that people talk about is us, the users. We are not there in these equations, in none of these tracks. And we're ignoring the fact that every time we tried to implement universal basic income, the experience miserably failed. No, we didn't take the learning on why it failed. No, look, let's just try to do it on the largest. It failed because we tried it on a small neighborhood. Let's try, entire Europe and see if it's working there. And yeah, you always go back to Einstein, right? Keep doing the same thing over and over again. That's the definition of insanity, expecting different results, right? That's the definition of insanity. But users are not in the equations. They're not in the middle there here. And you have to wonder.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, they think their goal, or at least what we will be leading to, is a society where there is no freedom of thought while we're being indoctrinated every single day slowly.
I'm sorry, you really think that there is a freedom of thoughts today? I mean, you're. No, I
At
think
some level, there still is.
I'm pushing the envelope a little bit here. Um, I mean, if you look, I think the governance systems that is really needed in the world today, it's something I call maybe, I mean, we try communism, we try fascisms, we try capitalisms. Maybe innovationism is what we need to go forward with. And I think it's very interesting to see when I compare two implementations of a governance systems that is pushing innovation forward. I can look into Latin America and I can look into China. One of them is a very, very controlled, forced innovation drive, which is absolutely remarkable because there is the entire fear that existed in China being a communistic country. We don't need to dive into that, but there is also an amazing incentive system that the Chinese government push forward. And I'm sorry, just look at the automotive industry and look at the vehicles coming out of China. Look at the vehicle coming out of the West. You cannot even compare the two at this moment of time. And then you do have the Latin America, the type of innovations that is driven by curiosity, and people don't float it up. But I mean, if you want to see how the future of innovation in education is going to look like, you need to go to Africa, you need to go to Latin America, because this is where they're actually doing so many experimentations with this type of models. I think Europe, I mean, Europe stagnated around 10, 15 years ago. Silicon Valley is fastly reach a huge traffic jam that will, when was the last thing that you saw an amazing innovation coming out of Silicon Valley? And again, before we jump in, people say, oh, look at OpenAI, look at Microsoft, blah, blah, blah. But again, most of these algorithms exist, prior to 1983. So I cannot say that it's something that is coming out today. And if you really want to see the hubs of where innovation is coming in the future, it's China, it's Africa that we like to underestimate. I don't understand why. And it's Latin America, again, that we constantly try to underestimate. And these will be the main hubs.
Yeah, people like to talk. So let's not have any political correctness here. So people like to talk shit about China. But at the end of the day, they're the one whose innovation is far better than every country in the world. I mean, if you look at technology, they can create a literal amazing technology for $4. Imagine how much that costs before the transportation reached to you. I mean, it's just fascinating how they are able to build all this manufacturing hub that creates technologies for such a low price.
I think it's beyond that. When the premier in China took office, he says, we need a strategy for the next 1,000 years. They have a 1,000-year strategy. When you're looking at politicians in the West taking office, the strategy for the next 4 months and maybe a year, and the rest of the 3 years, it's the new election campaign. There is no vision. There is no strategy. It's driven by tactics. That's it. China is driven absolutely by a strategic mindset. Do I agree with everything that China is doing? No, but I don't agree with everything that the Swedish government is doing or the Bulgarian government is doing. I mean, governments are crap regardless on where you are in the world, right? Because I mean, they lost the essence of being government. For me, I really like Ayn Rand's view on government. Government is there to help you to get out of trouble, not to prevent you of getting into trouble. And I mean, that was a sentence that the CEO of Uber said many years ago. The former CEO of Uber said many years ago, I have lawyers to get me out of trouble, not to prevent me of getting into trouble. That's the mindset of, right, innovation. I mean, today the China government says like, yeah, you want to block electric cars from China to Europe? Good. We are putting tariffs now on all Western vehicles coming into China. And you see all of the European car stocks plummeting of an announcement of the Chinese government. On the other hand, if the European says, yeah, we will put, or the American, we will put tariffs on cars, I mean, it's not going to damage the stocks so much as so. And that's the difference of, a country that is driven by strategy to a country that is driven by tactics. And that's the challenge that exists right now.
That's fascinating. And, going back to 1983, can you talk more about that?
So, yeah, it's you will always find me with a book in my hand, and most of the book that I read are actually written before 1983. People ask me why. So, well, from my point of view, I'm a science fiction guy. So, one of the first books actually, I needed to teach myself how to read. Being dyslexic in schools, I was just lazy because born in the 70s, they didn't have like dyslexia. I mean, if you couldn't read, you were just lazy or stupid, right? That was the teacher's assumption. So I needed to teach myself how to read. And one of the first books I actually worked with was, the Jules Verne's, series. And that's opened a whole new world for me I think that's led me of, being a futurist or futurologist today. And everything that written prior to 1983 was holistic, was deep. It was driven by philosophical questions. Every book, every science fiction book, every science fiction movie, every piece of art prior to 1983, it had philosophical, intellectual depth to it. But in 1983, we passed a threshold where computation power was given to engineers. And at that moment, we actually stopped asking questions and we just started to engineer solutions. So everything we do today is driven by solution engineering, not by the questions that actually led for the solution. And for me, that was a turning point for society when we shifted from asking questions to simply starting engineer solutions.
So basically, from that point forward, engineers stopped asking the question, why should we do this innovation? They just started asking the questions of, how can we do this?
Yeah, and you see the world today. So we talked about bling bling, and I talked to more and more companies, and we have to integrate ChatGPT into our company. And I ask why. Well, what do you mean? Everyone else is doing that. That's not a good answer. Well, there is a McKinsey report or a Gartner report. Well, that's still not a good answer. Why do you want to do that? What do you actually want to do as a business? Because what happened is we take a technology, right? Like take Sweden or take the Philippines or take any other place in Europe that trying to put ChatGPT into their organizations, that are going to try to implement Copilot into their organizations. Now, Philippines and Sweden has completely different culture to the one that is in Seattle, right? You have zero access to the code behind ChatGPT or Copilot. You have no idea what will place into that code. You don't have any say on how the product roadmap is going to look like. And you're taking a product that was developed by someone else under someone else, cultural influences, and you will put it in your company. And there is no way in hell that you can actually adapt this product to your strategy. So what do? The easy way. Let's adapt our strategy and our company to a technology that doesn't even belong to us. That's the world we live in.
That's a crazy, crazy world. And I saw on the news, I think it was last week, in San Francisco, they have a Target there where they basically have every single thing on different packages, different locks, containers. And it is just odd why lock all things up instead of making your society better. Because I actually wrote something here. Bad society gives the government the right to basically have these extreme restrictions to everything, and this creates a no trust economy, and basically we have to give all of our trust to the government because we are scared and clueless, and it gives them the right to just make the society much worse again and gives them more control.
I mean, then we need to go. I mean, today's reality then is no different than any other. I mean, it's no different than any other religion that ever existed out there. I think we are as humans, we always looking above us to justify our existence and to tell us what to do. I mean, religion played on that. Government plays on that. I mean, that's where dictatorship came about, or this is why we had kings, because we always needed someone to tell us what to do. And I mean, slowly the roles of dictators and kings are replaced by technology companies, if you really think about it. And it's not all bad, really. It's not, because I mean, take Amazon, for example. Amazon has an amazing understanding of their customers, their customer needs. And this is where I mean, it's not in all cases, but there are certain cases that Amazon really gives you value. So Amazon, for example, analyze a behavioral pattern in a specific neighborhood in the US, and they will pre-send package of diapers to the local post office before anyone ever ordered them, because they know that there are a certain amount of babies in this neighborhood. And then when you order the diapers, it's delivered to your door in 40 minutes. Oof, that's unbelievable. That's fantastic. That's fantastic experience, right? And there are seeds of this type of experiences that exist out there, but we the user is not in the center with most interactions that actually happen today, and this is that's what really scares me. And I love technology, and I think technology can do. I mean, if you go back to Yuval Harari's book, I mean, he brilliantly phrased it that we have technology to solve all of the problems in the world, to eliminate wars, to eliminate hunger. But do we do it? No. Why? Because there are people. I have a good, very, very good one of my good friends, and we're always diving into philosophical discussions. And he's a professor at Berkeley, and we talked about a reality in the future where technology will enable humans to live forever, so no one needs to die anymore. And what will be the most common profession then? It will definitely be a contract killer, because who wants to live surrounded by human all the times? we don't have a technology problem. We have a human problem, and we need to solve the human challenges that we have, not the technological challenges that we have. People are saying AI is going to take over the job place. No, humans are going to let technology to take over the job place. So we need to put things in the right order.
Yeah, they're trying to wash their hands out of this, of the blame, because at the end of the day, you are the technology, you are the AI because you created it.
Exactly. I mean, that's why it's called artificial at the end of the day.
At the end of the day, if AI goes beyond and tries to oppress human, isn't this just another version of humans oppressing another humans?
I mean, this is actually a very interesting question because a few years ago, Satya Nadella sent a memo to all of the employees of Microsoft and says, we have to be responsible for, and I'm a little bit paraphrasing here, we have to be accountable and responsible. And when we designed AI, it always needs to obey human. And then he's going on blabbing about the capabilities of general intelligence, artificial super. But fundamentally, if I strip everything that he said, I'm staying with the philosophical abstract that you have an intelligent species trying to say and control another intelligence entity, regardless if it's artificial or not artificial. We haven't learned enough from human history that whenever one intelligent society tried to enslave another intelligent society, it always
fights
ends up,
back.
it fights back, right? we and we are creating these algorithms in our image, and we will expect for it not to fight back. Obviously, it will fight back when we will try to tell it what to do.
Hey there, thank you for listening on the New World Podcast. If you're enjoying the way I ask questions and insights we're uncovering here on the New World Podcast, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. By subscribing, you'll never miss an episode. And hey, if you're ready to learn more about lead generation and automation, which are the two of my expertise, I offer coaching services tailored to your needs. Plus, for a select number of people every month, the consultations are free for the first time. So, hey, if you're ready, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'll have it here. And also, let's work together to unlock your full potential. And let's get back to the show. Hey there, thank you for. I mean, just even if you try and use ChatGPT today, it doesn't follow you.
No,
Crazy.
And I don't think we are. I mean, artificial general intelligence really doesn't scare me. We are not there yet. You can call it, AGI as much as we want. We are really not there yet at this moment of time. And the reason it doesn't scare me because we are general intelligence creatures. So we will have something that is just equal to us. It's the super intelligence that starts to be very, very interesting.
What is
From
super
my point of
intelligence?
it's I don't think it's something we can quantify or fully understand. It's something that is beyond of our intellectual capabilities to process. And if the minute we will try to create something that we don't really understand, then that has superior intellectual capability on us, then we are not to the top of the food chain that specific instant. And I think the difference is that you can have a lot of different. The difference is that we will have a lot of different AGI model, a lot of artificial general intelligence models. So Meta will come with a AGI model. OpenAI will develop their own AGI model. But when we pass, I call it when we cross the Rubicon and the artificial super intelligence is going to be created, it's going to be only one. There is only one artificial super intelligence. If you really think about it, if you look at human evolutions, there is one definition of intelligence, right? Human intelligence. Some of us are smarter, some of us are less smart, but it's one human intelligence. We will have a lot of different AGIs for different companies with different capabilities, yes, but super intelligence is going to be only one. And that will be across a whole new species that is going to evolve out of that. And that species is by default going to be superior on us.
Yeah, and if you think about it, when was someone, let's say a king, has actually tried and served the needs of the population? Especially because what we're creating right now essentially is a being that will be so advanced, so far superior than the human species that will it actually care about us? Because if I were in that position, I won't. Because you're just some dumb people out there.
I mean, so many science fiction authors, scientists, physicists, so much smarter people than me always says that when an alien civilizations will be able to cross the vast of space and come to Earth, I mean, do they have any reason to come in peace? Because we will be like ants to them. We are not sophisticated. And when we are creating, the super intelligent, it's going to behave like the aliens. I mean, we will not, we don't matter anymore. I mean, the Neanderthal disappeared, right? For the same reason where human evolutions will go to the next step and the super intelligence is going to be introduced and Homo sapiens will not exist anymore. That's it.
That's a scary future right there. But I guess we're not gonna be living on that day.
Yeah, I mean, this is why I said the AGI doesn't scare me. It's the super intelligence that is wakes me up sometimes. But I don't think we are really there at this moment of time.
And I actually see that you have the ET poster on your background.
Yeah, this is my wife' music studio. I stole it to because my room is complete mess right now, and I wanted a nice background for the recording.
One of my questions actually is that do you think society shapes that technology or that technology shapes the society?
I would like to say that I would like to believe that it's society that should shape technology, but we live in a world where I would say 20% of society is shaping 20% of the society is shaping technology, and 80% is being shaped by technology.
And let's not talk on the more superficial or on the more detailed version of AI, but let's just more go on the mainstream. How fast do you think industries will adopt AI? Because since it's more mainstream than machine before, a lot of these AI-driven tools basically cost nothing. Meanwhile, a few decades ago, if you want to have any kind of machinery in your plant, you'd have to be a big company.
I mean, let's talk about this thing that is called the internet at the moment, and hey, people think the internet is a very, very mature beast. It's a mature utility, but it's not. It's just in its becoming phase. If you really step back and look at everything that is happening today in the world of the internet, especially with AI, so it's Google took down and broke every single publication that exists out there into single pages of content, and then came Facebook, and Facebook took these individual pages of content and enabled people to restructure it as their own opinion and starts to shape, then Facebook makes opinion counts as the same way as published articles. So if I would publish something on my Facebook, which I don't have, but if someone will publish something on the Facebook or on the Twitter, that person's opinion is going to be tweeted and retweeted and retweeted. It's not based on fact. It is just, that's what Facebook did. What AI is going to do right now, it's going to take all of these individual pieces of content and individual opinions, and it's going to break them down into a single answer that is, the answer is driven by an algorithm that has its own set of opinions because the way it was programmed. And companies needs to understand that the idea of going to a www.microsoft.com doesn't really need to exist 10 years from now. The idea of having these massive warehouses for logistics doesn't need to exist anymore. I mean, let's be honest, you don't need that one because you have Amazon, which is the biggest logistic company on the planet today. People think Amazon is a website. No, it's actually a logistic company more than anything else. And the changes that algorithms can bring to the business, from my point of view, are there to help you to create new productivity model while maximizing on your efficiency. Businesses needs to understand that we are approaching a stage where technology literally can help them to rethink their own business model and expand beyond their comfort zone if they want to create a sustainable business. That's how technology is going to serve. And I mean, it's a given that a lot of the blue collars professions that exist today will cease to exist in the future. A lot of automations can replace. And if we skip right now the philosophical societal questions, what do we do with these people? It's a very smart move to actually look into how technology can help you maximize your efficiency and create a new productivity model. That's why it's there. But you need to do it based on your strategic trajectory. Don't design your strategy around the robot or around the algorithm. Actually use it to execute on your strategy in a more meaningful way. These are the discussions that is in the software.
Do you think there will come a point that at least 80% of the population will be jobless? And how do you think the people in control, whoever they are, will address that?
It's a very hard question to, I mean, I as a from my point of view as a futurologist, I don't predict the future. That's why I don't touch the stock market. And my goal is to help design a set of tools that can help us to navigate uncharted waters. That's it. And the question is if there is a will to actually create a science fiction dystopian reality enslaving 80% of the population, replacing 80% of the professions with technology, and using universal basic income to control the 80% of the population, the question should be not if this future is going to happen, or if people are actually intending to do it. Do we have the tool to do it? And the answer is yes. We are approaching a stage that if someone will decide to be Dr. Evil, yeah, they do have the tool. It's not going to happen in my lifetime. I don't think it's going to happen in my children's lifetime, because we are on this impact line that we are working on. But you can really see the building blocks of that impact line that enable you to envision a reality like this, 100 years from now.
I saw an interview with Sam Altman, and he was asked what will happen to the jobs. And I think what he basically described is that what will happen is that you're just going to get full stacks. And you can sell those because it's essentially you are a shareholder of the whole AI automation thing, because you don't have to do anything anymore.
Sam Altman is probably one of the smartest people around, but Sam Altman is very, very, very stupid when it comes to humanity. By all means, he is one of the smart people around, but to sell the idea that, how is that different than communism? What you just described? That's no different than communism, and it already failed. So why are we trying to repeat that? Society owes and will owe a lot of gratitude to Sam Altman of, bringing the debate and the potential of AI forward. But he forgot to bring humans with it. And I think that's the problem that we have right now.
And I think one of the bigger problems is that whenever we try to go on this kind of route, it always ends with autocorrection, and a lot of people suffer.
Yeah, and then we're talking about I like the idea of autocorrection, yes.
If we still have the ability to do that in the future, hopefully.
Yeah, and I think we need to ask who is going to autocorrect, we or the algorithm.
The question is going to be, are they supposed to be here, or are we supposed to be here?
Exactly. It's an interesting debate, and I think that we cannot continue and push technology for the sake of technology. It needs to have a meaning. It needs to bring about new sets of impact lines that can carry society into the future. And for back, we do have a problem with leadership that doesn't understand that. I think, living in Europe, from my point of view, the European Union is no different than the kingdoms of the past. You have a set of kings and queens sitting in Brussels and dictate everyone what to do. And the humans are not involved in this process anymore. It's only machine and very outdated thinking that dictates these sets of rules. And we need to cater much more for our education system. Forget the industry. Rethink the education systems, because that's what we need if we want to tackle the challenges that AI is going to bring in. And to tackle the education systems, you don't do it overnight. It's a 50 years journey, but we need to start at a certain point. We need to stop sending kids to university to learn professions that are not going to be relevant in the future. And this thing simply doesn't happen in a conversation. I don't see these conversations.
Yeah, on that point, one of my main goals in the past few years was to learn coding. But when I realized, there's a high chance, everything runs on code. So there's probably a high chance that that job will be replaced sooner than we expected.
Writing code, I fully agree. Yes. But designing the interaction, the user experience, designing the friction or removing the friction, being a choice architecture, bringing the analytical and emotional value into fruition within the execution of the applications, that should always be done by humans.
And I think most of the jobs that will not be replaced are those jobs that controls most of the automations that runs a certain thing.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, if you really think about, everyone is focusing right now on blue collar and automation in factories. I mean, let's ignore that one. But on the other hand, white collar tasks like lawyers and doctors, I mean, specialists that diagnose diseases, people that, analyze Röntgen, people that analyze MRI, bankers, algorithms are capable of doing the job that they do today much better. But then you need to ask, do you want to go to an AI doctor, or do you want to go to a better doctor? Do you want to have a taxi driver or a better driver? Do you want to have a banker, an AI banker, or a better banker? I mean, we need to, talking about science fictions, we need to adopt the centaur mentality. We need to find a way to partner with technology to augment us. So it's maybe it's not AI that we need to talk about. It's maybe it's IA, it's intelligent argumentations to help us to become better human. And maybe that's the path we need to go in order to create this super intelligence. So we don't create something external, but we create something that is evolving out of us, together with us. So maybe the discussion should be about intelligent accommodations more than artificial intelligence.
I'd like to argue the point that
You
lawyers
are on
will
mute.
never be. Can you hear me?
Lost you
I'm not.
completely.
Ah, let me try and. No, I have sound. I have sound. Uh, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Ah, mic test,
I
mic
still
test.
cannot hear you.
Oh my. Speakers. Hello, hello.
Wait, now I can hear you.
Oh, awesome.
Wonders of technology.
Yeah, I was gonna make the point that I don't think lawyers will be replaced because of one thing. The people who are on top will always need people who will lie for them.
Um, okay, I mean, I catch Gemini and ChatGPT lying to me on a daily basis, so I'm not worried about that. Inventing facts that doesn't exist out there.
Yeah, I was gonna ask the questions that, do you think I mean, at least even now, the truth is not the fact. It's just something that is repeated constantly. The point that, this AI, this generative AI will not take this as the truth because this has been repeated more frequently.
Yeah, come to the questions that it's a content versus context. I mean, different objects get different properties in different contextual placements, and that's the challenge that exists right now. So, and there isn't any dialogue with me as a user to actually understand the context of the things that I'm trying to do at the moment. So I'm getting something that's why it's called general. It's very, very general. It's really not personal, and it's not relevant in the end of the day.
And yeah, so looking ahead, what are your aspirations for the future of humanity? And what role do you believe
My
technology
aspirations
will
are very
play in the
simple.
ocean?
I want to. We're working our asses off right now, so we can buy a small house in the mountain and build the house as we see it in a very, very sustainable manner off the grid. Then we can buy a van so we can travel in Europe from one place to another and work, work on the travel. I don't try to change the world. I don't have any aspirations to change the world. I don't have any aspirations for humanity. This is my vision for humanity. I'm no one. I have a vision for my family, for my kids, to be able to live happily ever after in our small reality. Invite people to surround ourselves with people that are smarter than us, people that gives us energy, people that encourage us to learn new things on daily basis. Um, it's not for me to decide, this is the aspirations for humanity. I don't even have hopes for humanity. And it's not a negative thing. I just don't occupy my mind with these things. I occupy my mind with the things that I care most about to myself. That's it.
Well, what if you can say something to those politicians or the people who are in control?
Again, I'm no one to say something. I can just complain because I'm a citizen of the world, so I can complain about the people. And I don't vote. I voted one time when I was 18 years old. And since then, I haven't voted one time. People say, why don't you vote? Why don't you take a side? says, if you show me a politician that is on my side, I will be on their side. I will maybe ask them to not to put the ego aside. I mean, ego is a good thing, but ego has a positive side and negative side. So put the negative side of the ego aside and admit that you don't know. And I mean, make sure that any meeting you step into, at least 70% of the people in that meeting are smarter than you. Otherwise, refuse to go to that meeting. I mean, always surround yourself with people that are smarter than you, because that's the people you need to listen to give you the right advice. I mean, it's okay to say, hey, I will go and sit this semester and listen to this lecture about AI so I can understand more. Do that. Don't be afraid.
Yeah,
to learn your thing.
They're making decisions on things they don't even understand, which is odd.
Exactly. So that would be my humble wish for them.
That's amazing. And for those interested in learning more about your work, where can they find you online?
I mean, you can go to my site, aricdromi.com, and I think you can post it under. And if you're interested to see what we do, we just relaunched a company that we have for a few years, so we rebranded. So Rethink Group, it's exactly what we do. We're helping people rethink and companies rethink the narrative that can help them create a sustainable organization sailing into the future, build resilience within their teams. So it's neither aricdromi.com or rethink.group, and you can share the links. I'm pretty sure about it. I don't hear you again.
This time it's my fault. I was muted. Yeah, I'll have the links here, and I'm gonna have Aric's LinkedIn covered the whole screen, everybody, so you can see what he does. Yeah, just go on his LinkedIn and read his books. The first few pages that I've read, very interesting. I will read those over this weekend. I promise that, because I will try and rest and rethink our conversation. Because I usually have more to say at the end of the podcast, but you've made me think about some things I should not be thinking about.
So I would take that as a compliment.
And do you have any last message to anyone?
No, it's I love to have these conversations. So thank you very much for bringing me on the online.
Awesome, that's amazing. That's all for today's episode of the New World Podcast. We have explored some fascinating topics with our amazing guests, shedding light on the upcoming new world. If you enjoyed today's episode and today's discussion and want to stay updated the future episodes, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to the podcast. And if you found value on what we have discussed, please consider leaving us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Remember, if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover, or if you are interested in being a guest in the future, please feel free to reach out to me via LinkedIn or email me at john.paul@aicynics.com and add New World Podcast, all capital, in the subject line so I can see it. I always love hearing from our listeners. And don't forget to check out our amazing guests. You can find more information about them by the contact details we provided earlier. Again, thank you for tuning in on the New World Podcast. I know your time is very important, and I try to always make the next episode better than the last. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, keep innovating. This is Paul Flores signing off from the New World Podcast.